Good afternoon and welcome to episode 16, 17.
No, 18.
18?
18, yes.
I don't know.
It's 18, y'all.
It's 18. Are you counting special editions?
I'm counting special editions because those are shows, girl.
You're right. You're right.
18.
Well, welcome everyone to CommuniTEA. We are so delighted to have you join us once again. We have a really exciting show lined up today. I know I say that every week, but I've never been wrong about it. Every week. So we're continuing this Black Girl Magic Parade. I know we started the month off with that, and we're just going to continue it this evening. We have a dynamic panel who will share their thoughts about being a Black woman and the power of being a Black woman and reclaiming our time. So
reclaiming our everything.
Yes. So before we get started, I am going to let Portia leave so Portia can give our announcements. Go ahead, Portia.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So as always, guys, we are the NAACP Houston branch. We are a volunteer-based organization, so we need all of the help that we can get. So we would love for you to join our wonderful branch if you're here in the Houston area. It is $30 for 1 year. So if you join today on August 19th of 2020, you'll be a member for 1 year until August 19th of 2021. If you want to have a deeper, more long-lasting relationship with our organization, we encourage you to take out a subscribing life membership or just pay it all out. You don't have to be subscribing at all. But if you choose to be a subscribing life member, $75 for a year for 10 years, pay the $750. You can double up or triple up as your money situation allows you to do. So we just encourage you to join our organization. If you happen to be watching this and you are not in the Houston Metroplex area, we encourage you to join wherever you are. But if you're here, head over to naacphouston.org/join, or just go to our website and find the join tab. And if you are not here in Houston, we encourage you to go to our national website, naacp.org, and find out. You can click the join tab there, put in your zip code, and it'll bring you to the closest unit or chapter in your area. So we just want you to come on board and be a part of our awesome and amazing organization. We've been around for 111 years, and we intend to be around for many, many more. So we need your help to continue to keep our organization going. So we've been focusing on voting and really pushing heavy for it. We know there's attacks coming from every angle on the voting enterprise as a whole. So we want to encourage you to make sure your voice is heard, get registered to vote, and get out in November to vote. So here in Texas, the last day to vote is October 5th. In the uniform election, the general uniform election is taking place on November 3rd of 2020. Early voting starts on October 13th and goes to October 30th. I don't normally give out shout outs to Governor Abbott, but he did extend our early voting period. So we're no longer 2 weeks, but we're going to be 3. So we encourage you guys to go ahead and get registered to vote now so that you can make sure your voice is heard and play a role in the election come November. Also, if you are interested in helping other people get registered to vote, we encourage you to become a volunteer voter deputy. You don't have to just be here in Houston or Harris County to do that. You can do that in multiple counties across the state. So make sure you look that up. I want to highlight the national office, the National Association as a whole is doing a Lift Every Voice and Sing performance competition to be shown during our national convention, which is taking place September 13th through the 26th. So we encourage you, if you have a voice or a gift for a song, we encourage you to submit your rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing, and that is due by August 21st over at naacp.org link. It's one of the main banners on the main page. Also, want to call attention next weekend, August 28th, we're going to be doing our virtual March on Washington, commemorating the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington, when MLK gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. We want to make sure that you are engaging with that. October 27th and 28th, you can go over to march2020.com, or you can go, 2020march.com and join the effort now, or just visit the NAACP ORG main page and you'll find that information there as well. Also want to remind you that our national convention is coming up again on September 13th to the 26th. You'll be able to have access to that as well by going to our national website. Local events. So I talked about voting already. So this weekend on August 22nd on Saturday, We will be at Greater St. Matthew's Church, located at 7701 Jutland Road, and from 11 to 1 a.m. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. doing voter registration, and that is with the Houston Area Urban League. So we encourage you, if you have family or friends in that area, to make sure that you come out and get registered to vote. It is contactless. It will be drive-through. So we will not be, interacting with them for the most part, just giving them the voter registration form to fill out and then taking it back. So it is completely safe. We just encourage you to send the people our way if they need to be registered to vote. Also, COVID testing. So we have partnered with the Cure COVID Consortium as well with Bay Good and Start Small. And we are doing free COVID testing typically on Saturdays and Sundays throughout the Houston area. So we don't have anything planned for this weekend, but we encourage you to go to the curecovidconsortium.org to find out what testing is available in your area. And then also the city of Houston is also doing free testing. So we encourage you to get tested, get your family tested, and make sure that if you're carrying the virus, so you can stop the spread. We can stop the spread, and we can get back to life as normal as possible. So that is all that I have. Sorry, one last thing. Don't forget to do your census. We are now at 64% as a nation, 59% here in Texas, and then we're at 58.8% in Harris County and 54% in Houston. So we encourage you guys, that's how we're going to be able to close the gap in our funding across the United States, specifically here in Texas, in Houston, and in Harris County. So we need you to go out and do your census. It takes literally 7 to 10 minutes to complete. It's just 9 questions. The link is scrolling across the board at the bottom, 2020census.gov. Go ahead and click there now and do your census. When we were out doing our voter registration, people just don't know about it. People don't know what the census is. So we just encourage you to share that information with your friends and your family. It just has to be done. If you're all living in the same house, it's just one household, one person in the household does it for the entire house. We want to make sure that we're getting counted so that we can get our resources. So that's all I have. Jules, I'll throw it back to you so we can get started with this amazing conversation for today.
Thank you, Portia. All right. I hope you all are excited as I am. We are joined today with a group of women, dynamic women. I'm going to bring in Portia's co-chair of the Young Adults Committee, Shamira Kenner. She is the executive producer of today's show, and she helped put this show together. So I'm really excited to have her. Hi, Shamira.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, love. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. Great. So tell me, what does it mean when you hear someone say, I stand with Black women?
To me, I think one of the most important things in life is knowing that someone has your back. And that doesn't mean just sharing or retweeting or something like that, but knowing that you have someone in the gap with you. So that means pushing for initiatives, whether or not you're in the room, advocating for you, whether or not you're in the room, just being an all-around advocate for Black women.
Excellent. Well, you're certainly an advocate for Black women, and I know you stand with Black women. And the reason why I asked, because that's what my pen says. It says, I stand with Black women. And I'm excited to be joined by this dynamic panel that you have put together. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go ahead and start sharing this page, tag a strong woman and a powerful Black woman, an entrepreneur, your mother, your sister, your cousin, your auntie, whomever, your auntie. I'm from Florida. We say aunt and auntie. We don't say auntie. That's the next thing. But just tag them all, because this is sure to inspire. All right. Here we go. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. I just want to go around and allow you to introduce yourselves as you see your names come up. All right.
Hello, I'm Stacey Allen.
Hi, I'm Latricia Hamilton.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Willis.
And these are our guests today. And Shamira, I apologize. Shamira Kenner is also a guest today. All right. So ladies, thank you all for joining us. I know that 3 of you are attorneys. One of you, you're a licensed counselor and social worker, correct, Kim?
Yes.
Okay. So you all work with the public a lot. You see every side of society in the work that you do. Prior to the show, I heard Ms. Hamilton talk about her studies. You're enrolled in grad school right now?
No, after I finished law school at Loyola, I attended Rice University, and I graduated last May with a master's in global affairs. So in addition to my law
That's
school,
what I heard. Okay.
I'm also working on national security issues.
Oh, wow. Excellent. And tell us about some of the work that you do, Stacey. Can she hear me?
I'm sorry, did you talk?
Yeah, tell us about some of the work.
I didn't hear my name. My apologies. Yes, I'm a local attorney here, started my own firm about 4 years ago, specializing in criminal, civil litigation, and probate matters. Also involved in community as a director on the Houston Lawyers Association, trying to at times teaming up with organizations like the NAACP, and also volunteer with youth at my church, St. Monica Catholic Church in Acres Homes.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. And Stacey, tell us about the work that you do.
Kim.
Oh, you mean Kimberly? Yes, Kimberly. That's fine. So I am the CEO and founder of the Successful Healing Center here in Houston, Texas, which is a therapy practice where I typically work with women of color and helping them to find their identity and get past traumas. In addition to that, I also have a podcast called Sis Break Out, where I specifically talk to women of faith who are ready to break out of the box, which is kind of what is happening now with the Black women. We're breaking out in all areas, and teaching them skills and tools to, either leave their 9-to-5 or just start a side hustle to where they're able to economically empower themselves and their families. So those are a few things that I do. I do a ton more, but I'll leave that just those few.
So you help women discover their inner Jamaican.
Yes. About 5 jobs.
Jamaicans, we're gonna have 5 or 6 hustles. All right. Yes. So thank you all for that. Shamara, tell us what you do.
So I also am an attorney. I take TJJD, juvenile revocation hearing appointments. I am also the young adult chair for the NAACP, and I'm running a solo practice as well. So a few hats I'm wearing, but definitely excited to be amongst these amazing women.
Yes. So as you all see, we have a really good panel here with us today, and I'm really excited to hear from them. So what does it mean, reclaiming our time? I know our Auntie Maxine gave us that quote, right? I'm reclaiming my time. But what does that mean to each of you? Whoever wants to go first, what does it mean to reclaim our time as an individual and then right now in 2020?
Well, for me, reclaiming my time means taking up space, letting people know that I'm in the room and taking my rightful place at the table.
Okay.
And to kind of piggyback off of that statement, I think I'm usually in the wellness arena. And so a lot of how we interact in our present moment is dictated by our past experiences. And so I think that reclaiming our time as Black women, and for me personally, really means like, okay, yes, I experienced this. Yes, society may view me as this, but these are the gifts and talents that I have, the skills and the skills that I have to make this society better. And now I'm ready to say, forget who's going to give me permission, but I am going to step out and let the world know who I am and what I have to offer and do exactly that.
All right. Next question for Stacey and Shamira. In reclaiming our time, we see where we are in 2020. We see the power moves that Black women are making on the national front. We know what happened here in our own city or county little under 2 years ago when over 19 Black women were elected as judge. So reclaiming our time here in modern times, what do you take from that? Like, how does that empower you, and how do you see that empowering, I guess, little girls or other Black women?
For me, having a seat at the table that we should have always had, you know. So I think having so many women who look like me at the table, it is inspiring. I think we tell every little girl that everything's possible that they can ever imagine when we have women of color at the table. So the more women of color we have at the table, the more little girls can see themselves in these positions and in these spaces where 10, 20 years ago, they never would have seen a Black woman. So for me, it's like Latricia said, definitely taking up space and rubbing up against the grain and moving into spaces where we probably weren't allowed not too long ago.
All right, excellent. And Stacey?
Yes, I think it's about expanding what's possible and even potentially what's necessary, right? So I think we've always known that Black women have the skill set, the intelligence, the background. We know that as Black people and Black women, specifically sitting at the intersection of Blackness and womanhood, have always had to be more qualified, more educated. In fact, we are the most educated populace in this country. And so when we see 19 Black women take the bench in one election, it's something that is due time. It's not something that is given. It's not a token seat. It's something that has been earned, plotted for. The land has been tilled by our ancestors from a lot of Black women who didn't get to have those positions but deserve to be there. And so for me, reclaiming the time, looking at the leadership wave that we have right now, it's our harvest season, right? We've been planting for a long time. It's time for us to move into a position of harvest and expand this notion of what Black women are capable of, and also being very I think intentional about cultivating more Black judges, more Black leadership, more Black people in positions of power, so that we now can be those who pass on the intellectual wealth for generations to come.
I love that, intellectual wealth. We definitely have that. Like one of you previously said, you know, we are the most educated in this country, you know, as displayed right here. I think we have 4 JDs on the screen. We probably have, how many of us have master's degrees, right? So we have 4 JDs, 3 masters, and 5 bachelors, clearly, right? We're highly educated. We're highly empowered, you know. And do you ever find that in your social circles or just in life period, that people want you to not be proud of those achievements? They want you to play them down. And how does that make you feel? And why do you not play them down? And this is just conversational, so y'all have at it.
So for me, I have 3 degrees. And I mean, even going back to college, I went to Texas Tech University and I graduated first in my class with a perfect 4.0 GPA. And that's something that I'm very proud of. And I've had a lot of people, thank you, want me to play that down, but I don't. Like, I just can't. You know, we've been told since we were kids that we need certain accolades to, you know, be on the same playing field with our counterparts. Well, when I have that, then you tell me I need to be humble, tone it down. No, like, I worked hard for this, so I'm going to let you know I am smart. I am intelligent. I have something to bring to the table.
I love it.
Yeah, and I completely agree. It's one of those things where it brings about kind of a level of confusion, and you know, you try to break out of the status quo of, you know, if you're the smartest one in the room, nobody's going to want to sit with you, you know, because everybody wants to be seen as better than the next almost. And when it comes to being in like corporate America or something like that, and I realized that sometimes when you understand yourself more, and when you understand that you don't necessarily need the degrees. I have 4 degrees, you know, 2 bachelors and 2 masters. And yet, you know, when I go into a room, I don't necessarily feel like I have to
start with that or lead with that. But I do think that it's something to have in the back pocket for when I am challenged with, oh, well, you may not understand this, or you may not know that, this side of business or understand this concept because, we've been in this for forever. We have these degrees. It's like, wait, whoever told you I didn't have degrees, Right. And it also teaches people that you can't look at a book by its cover. Just because I'm an African-American woman, and typically I started my career as one at a level that most people kind of work up to. I didn't come in entry level. So I'm at a table with mostly, white males and older minority women. However, when they looked at me, it's like, oh, this must be, the assistant or someone who's taking notes for someone else. Like, that's how they looked at me and perceived me because I was in the juvenile justice arena. And when they finally started hearing the things that I had to say and I started overproducing, then it gave me validation almost to be able to do the work that I was placed there to do. So I think that, it doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily lead with the degrees, but I definitely use it as a tool and show people like, hey, I am just as qualified as anybody else at this table, and I can produce the amount of work as anybody else at this table can produce. Excellent. Excellent. Anyone else want to touch on that? And by the way, Portia has a master's as well, so I don't want to leave Portia out. That's my sister.
I think it's powerful to be educated, especially as a Black woman. And again, to enter those spaces, I can count on my hands and my toes how many times I've gone in a courtroom and been yelled at for, going across the barrier for where the attorneys sit, because it's not a lot of, doing the type of law I was doing medical malpractice. There wasn't a lot of Black people, period, in those spaces. So it was interesting being yelled at and assumed to be a defendant in some cases. So it's empowering for sure to have it and to come from a family that, where you may be the only college graduate or the first college graduate. It's definitely empowering to feel that you're setting or starting an educational legacy for your family.
Yeah. Stacey touched on it briefly, but think about our ancestors, what they experienced, the doors that were shut in their face, the opportunities that they didn't have. And now you have, us here, we're getting educated. We're going into arenas that were once off limits for us. We don't serve the world by playing small. So I think it's something that we should be proud of, and we should walk with our heads held high. Like, nobody should make us feel any type of way because we went out and got an education.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. I'm in education as a professor, so I get it. So Shamara, just like you cross that barrier and they're like, where you going? That's been done to me. And I'm like, hold on, I'm the professor here. Who are you talking to? You have to remind people, because for so long, we weren't expected to be in certain spaces, and to walk through with your head held high. I commend each of you for continuing to do that. And we're still celebrating first in arenas. The first, I think, I can't even think of the title, but some type of pilot that just was announced earlier this summer. Someone was the first with a certain doctorate degree, first Black woman to earn it. And here we are in the year of 2020. So I'm glad to hear that despite having been receiving that pushback on being proud about who you are and who you've created yourself to be, because no one's done that work for you to receive those degrees, to be proud of that. And let's not play ourselves small. I think I hear people say that a lot, sometimes around dating, that comes up. People will say, don't you think that's intimidating? No. That's proof of the investment, so
I like that.
Proof of the investment.
It's the return on investment.
But it's the proof of it, you getting a lot with me, a lot comes with this that's positive. So Yeah, that's excellent. So now here we are. We're looking at this major ticket, right? For the first time ever in the history of the United States, a major party ticket is accompanied by a Black woman born of immigrants. She is Indian and Jamaican. You know, she is a graduate of one of our favorite HBCUs, whether it's your favorite one to hate or your favorite one for whatever reason, right? Howard University, right?
And she's a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Yes, she is. She is a sister of mine, and I'm guessing yours too.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, she's our sister, right? And she's all of our sister, but just the pride that comes along with watching Kamala Harris rise to this occasion. And tonight we get to hear from her. How does that make you feel, seeing the power of that Black woman? And does it make you feel like she's reclaiming the time for all of us?
So I'll go first on that one. I definitely think it's a powerful moment. And the thing about, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you feel as a Black person and as a Black woman that you don't get room to mess up because you know that anything you do can affect the next one that's coming after you. We don't, as a Black people, get a luxury of individualism. It's always the collective when we walk into the room. But the other side of that is that when we walk into a space, we create space for others just like us. And so again, expanding what's possible for a Black woman. And also, I think putting to bed, hopefully, this conversation about whether HBCUs are still relevant, whether it's her, whether it's the Attorney General in New York shutting down the NRA, also a Howard graduate. Anyways, but there's wonderful HBCUs. Many of us, I think maybe all of us, I'm not sure, just knowing some of your backgrounds, are graduated from an HBCU, whether it was an undergraduate degree or I got my law degree from an HBCU, Howard University School of Law, whatever it may be. This idea that because something is for us, by us, then it has to be inherently less or flawed or incapable. Hopefully, a Kamala Harris shows you can come from the Divine Nine. You could come from an HBCU. I'm an immigrant. I'm from Colón, Panama. That's where I was born. You can be an immigrant. You can be all of these things that society, especially in America, has othered you for because you talk with an accent, or your parents have an accent, or whatever those things, and turn those alleged negatives as a source of power. So I am thrilled. And I think we'll talk a little bit later about some of the negatives that have come with that, right? So being a Black woman, automatically the snipers are out to try to take you down because in essence, people believe that you shouldn't exist. You don't have a right to that much power. We're celebrating, I think just yesterday, 100 years since the passing of the 19th Amendment allowing women to vote, knowing that it took 50 years later for Black women to get the right because suffrage movement said, wait your turn. And so we're saying, no, we're done waiting our turn. We're taking our rightful place. We've done everything to cultivate this. And not only are we Black and women, we are the most prepared, educated people to ever try to assume the office. So we're in the building. Buckle up.
Yes.
Buckle up.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yes, all of that.
Yes. You know, it's funny because I remember actually in 2015, 2016, I actually ran for a state representative seat. And I remember when I was running, a lot of people were like questioning my qualifications and questioning whether or not I was prepared or ready. And it was surprising to me that, you know, when I had 3 male opponents, when they walked into the room, nobody questioned their education. Nobody questioned their previous job experience or where they come from, where they live, if they're married, if they're not married. They didn't question any of these things. But I seen how people scrutinized me in a way that I didn't feel was equal to my counterparts. And when you see a woman like Kamala Harris go onto a national stage as a candidate for VP, it does a lot more for younger Black women who may have aspirations of wanting to have a seat at the table and not necessarily, questioning whether or not they're ready, but knowing that they are already prepared with everything and seeing a collective of Black women coming around them, no matter what their, background may be. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta. I had to throw that out there, okay? Because we still be doing some stuff, okay? But to be able to support her and say, this is my sister, regardless if it's a different organization, regardless if she's from a different state. I got my first master's from Prairie View A&M University, TV. So, coming from another HBCU, it's like collectively we have a time where we can come together and support each other and say, no matter, what, this is another Black woman that is doing her thing, and I am getting behind her in whatever way I possibly can. And so I think that is the message that we're sending to America, that we are not a divided community. We show up to the polls just like everybody else. And furthermore, we show up to the polls more than anybody else. So absolutely. I'm excited about this time and just having that representation on a national stage.
Same here. Wiley College grad, for the record, Wiley College in Marshall, Texas, home of the great debaters. Just wanted to throw that out there. But I know for me, it's transformative to know that the collective has your back. Yeah. And it's discouraging when you have people from your same community going against you and again, scrutinizing things you don't scrutinize men for. So I think it's definitely empowering to have her on this national stage. And I think we should do all that we can to not only support her and, not to endorse her, but this is no endorsement from the NAACP or anything like that. Let me just say that we're a nonpartisan organization. But I mean, even in her mental health, like it doesn't help tearing down a Black woman that way.
Right.
And if we ran, how would we want us to support us? I think we should treat it just as such. So I'm excited for her. And I'm anyone running that's a Black woman just needs that support. It changes things knowing you have the collective standing behind you. Right. It makes you move different. It makes you move with confidence and not afraid to, and you won't scale back. You don't feel like you have to hide in a corner or, silence yourself in a room full of the majority of men if you know you have a powerful pack behind you. So
for me, I'm like deeply proud. Like when I think about the fact that we have a Black woman on the ticket and just even saying that, like how it sounds, like hearing it. And you think about all of the Black women who have labored and given their time and their talents before her, your Fannie Lou Hamers, your Barbara Jordans, your Carolyn Mosley Braun. This is a proud moment for Black women, and regardless of party, I think that Black women have a lot to celebrate. We haven't yet achieved it, but it's just a proud moment for us all.
Yeah, and shout out to Shirley Chisholm as well.
Oh, yes.
But I mean, that list can go on and on. We can name founders of our respective organizations and the work that they've done around this issue, around elevating, promoting Black women and their work that they've done in the political arena. So I want to segue right into that. Last night, we all met Cozy Watkins out of South Carolina and, out of North Carolina. And she said, let me just be plain, and she talked to Black people. It was like hearing your grandmother or an older auntie or just a family matriarch talk to America about the role of Black people, how Black people win these elections. And that to me was powerful. To hear her say that just last night. If you caught it, did anyone catch that? And how did you feel when you heard Mrs. Watkins just command the attention in that moment? Shamar, you're on mute.
Inspired. I mean, especially coming from someone who's done the work, you know what I mean? And wanting to be just as impactful and making sure every move carries weight. I appreciated the charge. So,
yeah. Something that was stated during the previous question was, it's never individual, it's all about the collective. We've seen that support pour out time and time again amongst our sisters. We're seeing it right now as we look at our sister, as we look at Senator Harris, Kamala Harris, and her pursuit of the White House. And again, this is no endorsement. This is a moment for us. This is inspiration. This is reassurance about who we are and what we are capable of, right? And so we feel that moment, and then haters start trying to pull away at it. So Stacey, I heard you say that you were an immigrant, or your parents were immigrants. What country did you say?
Panama, Central
Okay,
America.
that's what I thought you said, right? How does that make you feel when people make statements like, because I've heard it, and I just want to hear how you all feel, that you can't be Black and on the national stage like Barack Obama or Kamala Harris or Colin Powell unless you are other type of Black. And how does that make you feel? Because 2 Jamaicans, 1 Kenyan, and a white, right? That's how their Blackness comes from. The Kenyan father for President Obama, and then Colin Powell's parents were Jamaican immigrants, and then of course Kamala's father was a Jamaican immigrant. How does that make you feel as an immigrant?
It's saddening to me, and it reverberates and echoes like certain life experiences. Like one time somebody told me, like, "Oh, you're not regular Black," and I was like, "What?" I have so many stories, but to me, it speaks to this larger kind of dismantling and re-education of Black people that needs to happen in a peculiar way. Anti-Blackness and racism is universal, but the way it permeates and shows up in different countries is different. And so the peculiar way in which racism continues to echo itself, colonial mindsets that we have taken into ourselves, how it manifests itself is very interesting in this country. And so one of the ways is for us, the way that we divide ourselves among ourselves. When a Black person is being pulled over by a police officer and being discriminated against for driving while Black, they don't have any understanding about when your parents came to this country or when you came to this country. They see you as a Black person. When they're yelling the N-word at you, they're not saying it from a basis of being nuanced. It was like, you're an American-born Black person, so this is only applicable to you. And so we have to think about the ways that we have internalized a colonial anti-Black mindset and begin to perpetuate it among ourselves. I have never seen myself as someone who's different than an American-born Black person. I claim and own my Afro-Latina identity because part of that is letting Latinos know that you're not going to erase me from my own history. History tells me that the transatlantic slave trade stopped in the Caribbean and the Latin American areas. 95% of the Black people went there. Only 5% came to America. And we also have to recognize that Blackness is universal. We speak different tongues. We come in different shades. We have different histories, but we're still Black and still experiencing anti-Blackness wherever we are and wherever we are from. And so for me, it's saddening. It's always crazy when I read things, people questioning whether or not she's Black, as if it's hard for me to really understand it because I've experienced it and I've never quite understood where that comes from. But if you look at the history of this country and the intentional propaganda around dividing Black people against themselves, it does make sense what we have to do is call it out, acknowledge it, have conversations about it, re-educate ourselves, and understand that no matter what the immigrant story or the history is, our voices are collectively elevated anytime one of us is elevated. And that when we're in positions of power or leadership, those of us who are immigrants or have immigrant parents don't just bring immigrant voices with us, we bring all Black voices with us.
Excellent, excellent. Did anybody else want to chime in on that, just from what you maybe have heard others say about it, or
about her Blackness?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like anyone has the right to question another person's Blackness. Like Stacey, she's Afro-Latina. You know, she's a Black woman at the end of the day, but she's also a Latina woman. And I don't think it's fair. And Kamala not only belongs to our community, but she's also half Indian. And, you know, this is a proud moment for that group as well. And I don't think anybody should question that. I don't think her detractors should try to, you know, tear her down because of something like that. She's Black in my book, and she's Indian.
Yeah. I think for me, like, her Blackness only comes into question when she's reaching this position of power and you wanting to take away the Black support. Correct. Now it's an issue. Any day on the street, she's a Black woman. You know, probably before running and getting to this level, she was just a Black woman. Now you're questioning how Black she is because you want to divide. Someone said it, divide and kind of just discontinue whatever support she did have and cause some murky waters there. But I agree. Blackness should not be questioned, especially if we're all suffering the same things.
Correct. Excellent. Excellent. You make an amazing point. You know, up until this moment, she was Black. Now, all of a sudden, she's the nominee and it's an issue.
Like, is she Black? Like, no, she's Black.
Yeah, she's not real Black. Well, what's real Black? And I'm glad that Stacey made the comment about the diaspora, you know, that 95% of those who made it during the transatlantic slave trade to the Americas, that's the other thing. All of us are American, whether you're in Canada, Mexico, yeah, Central America, the Caribbean, South America. But the bulk of the people went to not the what's known as the United States. I think we've hit this pretty good, this topic pretty well. I want to shift gears and just for a bit of fun, but still on that topic about Blackness and Black women and the respect of Black women. So the #1 song in the world, I'm saying the #1 song in the world is WAP, right? Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion. Meg is a Houston native. She's a student. I think she's finishing up at Texas Southern. I know she took a sabbatical, majoring in health administration. And then you have Cardi B, who was a history major and a lover of history and seemingly so political science when you listen to her speak on those topics. But she comes under she catches a lot of grief about her Blackness too. And that's why I'm really glad that Stacey made that point about what Blackness is. And Cardi does it all the time, talking about the diaspora. But there's a miseducation of the United States Americans when it comes to Blackness. So maybe this is our moment as Black women to really unlearn some things in some circumstances, and to be willing to learn more beyond. Because I think some people will look at you, Stacey, and will have no idea that Panama has people that look like you.
Or that around 40% of us look like me or some gradation of my color.
Right. Or Honduras.
or Honduras, has Belize, Southern Mexico, where they try to call mestizo. A lot of that is Black. Don't let me get into it. I was in international relations with a Latin America focus. So Afro-Peruvians, like, we are literally everywhere. And just in Austin, for instance, and I'll wrap up because I know we're trying to transition, one of the people that they're protesting about the death is Javier Ambled. He's an Afro-Panamanian as well. And we saw in the protests for George Floyd that went international, Black people taking the streets in every continent, even in Australia. And so hopefully seeing that awakens Black Americans to the fact that our Blackness is universal, and there's an opportunity to draw strength from that. And the fact that we were stripped of our identities in the transatlantic slave trade, and that was an intentional. Speaking of reclaiming, this is an opportunity for us to reclaim our unity across the globe and rise up and demand a more equitable treatment of us all, understanding that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and it's not just a United States of America significance, that's an international significance.
Excellent, excellent. So the reason why I brought up Cardi was not just because she's a Afro-Latina, but also because she's a Black woman who's coming under major scrutiny, and she keeps winning because of her entertainment. But when men do it, we don't hear a peep. You know, they're celebrated. You know, they get to hang out with owners of NFL teams, Meek Mill, you know. But when it comes to a woman doing it, you know, there again, we're looking down our noses. Oh, she's not an example for our daughters. Well, no stranger should be, you know. Or maybe she could be if you listen beyond the music, if you listen to other things, but that's nor here nor there. Next up, so we've talked about leadership. Let's talk about the workplace. And we've kind of touched on that just a tad bit with your experience in the courtroom. But I want to turn to Stacey. Not Stacey, Kim. I'm sorry. I'm getting y'all mixed up because the way the screen is, I keep going back and forth. But Kim, maybe if I put the names back up, can we get those names back up? Kim, in the workplace, what have you seen? You talked about a little bit earlier, proving yourself early in your career, but what other examples have you seen where you had to reclaim your space or reclaim your time as a Black woman in the workforce?
Yeah, one of the things I kind of want to bring up here is just like the topic of microaggressions. You know, those subtle things that people do that show you what they really feel and think and believe about you as a person, and how that in the workplace creates this almost workplace segregation, where I don't feel like I am a part of this, regardless of my, you know, degree, experience, no matter who brought me on or any of that. Is you feel isolated and feel alone in the workplace. And, you know, for those who are not really familiar what microaggressions are, that's that subtle, oh, let me move you out the way, but they grab you by the hips, you know, and transitioning you, or saying, oh my God, you know, your hair is so different today. Is that yours? Or, you know, they want to, can I touch your afro? Because I have an afro naturally, you know, sometimes I wear my afro and it's like, can I touch your hair? Or when they want to make comments like, oh, you're so articulate, for, you know, just not even for a Black girl, but you're so articulate. Those are the microaggressions that isolate us and keeps a limit on what other people feel as though we're capable of in the workplace. And I think as an African-American woman in the workplace, a lot of times we feel pressure to either address, like we feel pressure in how we're going to address it. You know, because if I address it, am I going to be deemed this angry Black woman, or is it going to, you know, make others feel like, oh, she's so emotional, she's too emotional. And it's like, no, I feel this way, and I have the ability to be able to speak up and say, this is not right, this is uncomfortable. You know, me being Black should not dictate whether or not I should have a voice in the workplace. You know, me being Black should not dictate whether or not, you know, you want to, or give you the right to come touch my hair or make comments about my hair. And so I think when we talk about Black women in the workplace, I think that we have to talk about those microaggressions that we so easily just let slide by and no one, speaks up about them. And I think that does create this isolation. And I think I was having a conversation with someone the other day where we talked about like how Black women are the largest group of entrepreneurs now. Why is that? It's because we have felt isolated in the workplace for so long that we haven't been able to express our greatness, that we have to go out on our own and show people our greatness, make our own tables so people can see what it is that we're capable of and the service that we can offer into this world. So I think in the workplace is definitely segregation when it comes to African-American women and how we're seen.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to chime in on that? And I'm going to bring Portia in to join us.
Another thing that's come up a lot lately is about the way Black women wear their hair in the workplace. Yesterday I was on LinkedIn. I think Shamira actually sent it to me. There was a news anchor who had braids, and she was told by some of the viewers, they sent her messages to her inbox and on social media telling her that her hair was unprofessional. When I looked at the picture, my first thought was, oh, that's cute. As a Black woman, we love our natural styles. And Shamira has been on my little journey with me, but in December 2018, I decided I was not going to chemically straighten my hair anymore. And so I decided I was going to go natural. And I know I'm a little late to the natural, bandwagon, but I got there. And for me, the experience was very cathartic and it was healing. What I thought was, oh, I just want my hair to be healthy again. Let me, transition. Let me start cutting away. But it's like, as I was cutting away, like it was symbolic because I was kind of cutting at what people was telling me I should be and how I should look. And it was very spiritual for me. I went ahead this April, since we've been on quarantine, to cut the remaining of the relaxer off. And it's like I'm getting to know myself in a new way. And it was very healing. And I inspired my nieces. Kennedy really inspired me. But we've been on our journey together, and Jasmine and Jordan. And it's meant a lot to me that I was able to bond with my nieces over something just like about hair. And I don't think anybody has the right to tell a Black woman how she wears her hair in the workplace, because you don't know what my hair means to me. You don't know what it symbolizes to me, my culture, my community. And so that's something that's come up a lot, is like our hair is so political. Like, why is our hair a topic? Like,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Shamira, if you're gonna go.
You're on mute, Shamira.
Great. I was just saying, like, it's exhausting having your Blackness policed, and like forced into to not be yourself. Like I think Latricia said the other day when we were like planning, it feels like you're wearing a mask and you can't fully be yourself if you're being policed, and you have to worry about, oh, is someone going to judge me for wearing my hair this way or talking this way or saying this thing that I would normally say culturally, or the things that make
in normal conversation.
In a normal conversation, it's scary. It's scary to work in those kind of places. And I've gotten to a point where if I can't fully be myself, questioning, like, do I want to be there? If I have to wear that mask, if I have to be policed and called unprofessional for wearing something as simple as twists or braids that don't speak to my ability to go in a courtroom and argue, do I even want to be in that space? So,
and I was going to say, I'll chime in too about just our attitudes, right? So like, I think that I've worked in a very male dominated field for a long time. I decided to like, buck the norm and like go into logistics, right? So I did supply chain, and I did that for the first like 8 years of my professional career before transitioning. And that's a very male dominated field. And also there weren't very many Black women once I started to move up. And it was always a problem. So if I, advocated for myself and saying, I don't think that comment was correct. I don't think that comment was, you know, appropriate. If they said something about, you know, the hair being above the shoulders, right? Which is a safety concern, right? But when they say, like, they see Latricia's hair and they say, oh, well, like, her hair needs to be pulled up. Or they see Kim's hair and say, oh, her hair needs to be pulled up. It was always the issue of the Black girls when they wanted to wear their braids. But if, you know, a girl of another color came in and she had her long ponytail, it was never a problem. And so when I spoke up, it was like, oh, Portia's unprofessional. Or when I had disagreed with something, just because, you know, our voices are a little bit deeper sometimes, it was an argument. Or like Portia is, you know, Portia is combative, you know, Portia is argumentative. And I started to hear that so much. You know, I finally was like, you know what, I don't want to work in this industry anymore. I'm going to completely just shift. And I had to leave. And ultimately, like, that was a more lucrative career for me. And I had to, you know, I made a transition to a less lucrative career just because for my well-being and my mental health, because I could not be myself. I couldn't express myself or even say I disagree with something without it coming off as being combative or argumentative. So I think we can talk about hair. We can talk about, you know, our tone of voice. Our tone is sometimes the issue. You know, there's a number of things, you know, the looks that we may give, or, you know, we're dismissive when we just, you know, disagree or say, you know what, I'm not gonna do this here. It's considered, you know, dismissive. And you do, like Shamira said, you have to police yourself and like hold your tongue because you don't want to be perceived as being, you know, the angry Black woman, which, you know, I think all of us have been called at some point in our lives. And it's so frustrating because it's just a simple disagreement sometimes. Like, I just don't agree with what you said, or, you know, the way that you handled that was incorrect, you know, in my opinion. But our opinion is often policed. So kudos to all of y'all that have struck out on your own, are doing your own thing. We have our own law practices, our own counseling service. And I know Latrice is going to be a consultant out here one day. So it's all this that we're doing, you know, it's awesome and amazing to see that, but it's unfortunate that we feel like we had to do that in order just to be ourselves.
Well, to add to what you're saying, Portia, something that I've told Shamira recently is that Black women are not allowed to show discontentment. Like, everybody else can, but we can't. Why can't we disagree? Like, why can't we show emotion? Why cannot we not be upset? Like, I think you see men do it all the time. Like, if a man gets angry, they say, oh, he's the man. You know, he showed them who's boss. But when we do it, oh, she's angry, let's get away from her. And it's just not fair to put those labels on us.
I think it's. Go ahead. I think it all boils down to the intersect of why being both Black and woman is a very unique and laborious experience that is like none other. You don't hear the terminology angry Black man, right? You constantly hear about the angry Black woman. When the New Yorker, which I will never support this publication because of this, because it was so toxic. When Michelle Obama was in office, but yes, the president and first lady of the United States, they showed her on the cover with an afro like an AK-47. It was very stereotypical to continually feed into this angry Black woman narrative. And it's the cross section of like women, if they speak up or do anything in the workplace, they're angry. But then we have also the stigma that comes in with being Black. So we get it in every single direction, and oftentimes don't even get supported either by Black men or other Black women. If we're completely
Please say it.
And so at the end of the day, it's about how close you are to. It's the idea that white is the standard. From your dialect and how you speak, to the tone of your voice, to how you wear your hair. The further you are from a wealthy, middle-aged white man, it's the further you are in the totem pole and are told that you don't belong in this space. White women, so using the suffrage movement as an example, but we see this echoed in workplaces, especially in corporate America, will team up with Black women to help women in general rise, but if you get to a certain level, then they say, oh, no. But no. So when I meant elevation, I really just meant my elevation. You're supposed to still stay back. And so from being in the airport, Black people being the ones whose hair always has to get patted down, even if you're next to a redhead, this has happened to me, redhead, excessively curly white woman, didn't get her hair patted down, but me, curly Afro Stacey, had my hair patted down, literally in the same security line, to right now, AI technology falsely claiming that we are the suspect in a crime when you have built into algorithms, right? Something that's supposed to be scientifically based, built into algorithms that white is the standard and therefore we can't detect the nuance of your Black face. We are in danger in every sector of society. So it really boils down to the foundation of this country, which the original sin of racism, and being both woman and Black.
Woo. And I was just, yeah, totally agree. And I was just going to say, I was thinking about Serena Williams and her being policed for showing emotion and passion. Here, this highly successful woman has reached, tremendous success. And even on a national scale, she's being ridiculed and harassed for showing emotion.
International.
Yes. Speaking international level of success, and she's still being policed and ridiculed for showing emotion that men show every day.
And also paying quality health care, right? So with all of her money, millions upon millions in the bank, with a white, I think he's a billionaire, husband, could not get her saying, I'm in pain, something is wrong, could not be taken seriously. And we almost lost the international treasure that is Serena Williams during childbirth, which shows that it doesn't matter how much money we get when anti-Blackness is baked into the institution, even something like healthcare where they take a vow to save life and do no harm. Our pain, our suffering, the voice of Black bodies is not taken seriously.
Yeah, that's right, Shamira. It's just our voice in general.
Our voice in general. So I start telling myself, if someone has wrongfully accused me of something, I'm not gonna get into a personal story, but and they're asking me about, calm down. Like, no, I have the right to be upset, and I have to tell myself that, or we might start believing that we are the angry Black woman. Like, no, I actually have the right to be upset because you've wrongfully accused me of something. So I think as Black women, when those instances happen, we have to remind ourselves, like, we have a voice, we can use it. We have the right to feel and have every emotion that anyone else has and not be policed that way. Like, we have to stand on that.
Yeah.
Well, you can go, Kim, and then I'll go after you.
Okay, and real quick, I wanted to throw this in here because it starts so early on with us as Black women. Even from childhood, if someone in a family or a church or whatever inappropriately said or touched or did something to us, we're told, oh, don't say that here, or whatever happens in this house stays in this house, or family business is family business, and we're taught early on to not speak up for ourselves. And I think even in raising, I don't have any children, but I have 4 nieces and a slew of goddaughters, like a ton. I'm always teaching them to use their words, use their voice. Don't placate this area or that. No, use your words, because if you feel a certain way, you have the right to be able to express that, and everyone else needs to listen to it. And so, it's crazy how even as adults, you see those ingrained, teachings come up with, like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, or maybe this is something I need to keep to myself. And we find ourselves enslaved to our own thoughts and opinions and feeling imprisoned in a greater society or community and not being able to express ourselves. But it's important to us, it's important for us as Black women to begin to tell younger Black women, no, use your words, use your voice, because it has meaning and it needs to be said.
Yes. I see we're coming up. We have about 20 minutes left. If we stick to 6 o'clock now, hey, if y'all want to go to 6:30, I mean, the conversation is that good, but I'm just letting you know we're 20 minutes out.
We have time. We're reclaiming our time today.
We're reclaiming our time. I think it's very important that each of you have reiterated issues that have been so deeply embedded into our society that we have to push back and reclaim our time, reclaim our voices. You know, like Portia, I've worked in a male-dominated workforce twice. And I had to give that pushback. Or when they said, oh, you got an attitude, or she not feeling good. No, I feel fine. What I'm not okay with is the way you just spoke to me, like I'm supposed to go along with it, you know. And after a couple of times giving them that, they backed off. And so for those who are listening that may be experiencing that, one, speak up for yourself, because I can assure you no one else is going to do it for you. And if they do, baby, it's because somebody, big mama, has prayed some prayers that covered you. I too have experienced, I saw Portia put in our chat that you all who are viewing can't see, but we have a production chat, that Black men either perpetuate it or they never speak up for you. And that was my experience. They would always call me after the team call. Man, that's messed up how he talked to you. Why didn't you say that on the call? You know, that's when you say that. You don't wait. So and this is the segue into our next spot before we get to the movement. But Black men, when Black women say they don't feel protected, that means, and then you all go ahead and tell me, what does that mean to you as a Black woman when you feel as though you're not protected by Black men? For me, it's my experience has been in the workplace where they'll see a wrong happen to me, but won't advocate for me, right? But what does that mean to you when Black women don't feel protected?
Well, I had similar experiences in the workplace. Like, I didn't feel like I was protected by Black men. And unfortunately, they were the ones actually doing the harm. And that hurts because, like, I don't know if we're just conditioned, you know, as young girls, you always have to have the guy's back. Like, we always have to lift up our Black brother. And I come from a large family. It's 6 girls, 3 boys. But my brother, who's a year younger than me, Jermaine, you know, we were a year apart. So I always had his back. Like, he looks older, but I am older. And, you know, I taught him how to tie a shoe when he was younger, you know, how to use his telephone. And it's like, I'm always there, you know, lifting him up, cheering him on. And I feel like Black men, sometimes they just don't have our back, but we're like conditioned, you know, look out for the Black man, support the Black man, but we want that in return.
Anyone else on that topic before we move on to the movement?
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead.
No, what I was thinking about, like, support from Black men, you know, I always typically kind of go back to my dad. Like, my dad is like, I still to this day, I'm 35. I still to this day call my daddy when something happens that I don't like. I'm like, Daddy, let me tell you what XYZ. And just hearing him, you know, even if I'm wrong, say, you know, girl, you know, baby girl, I get it, you know, or give me advice on something, or even speak up for me. And even on my campaign, when people said inappropriate things to me, I could see my daddy raise up on the side, like, hold up, she is an adult, you know, yes, she's an adult, and yes, she's running for office, but she's still my baby girl, and you're gonna respect her. Like, he had to have that conversation with some people in adults in a public platform who was getting too disrespectful. And having that support meant, like, man, okay, I can say everything now. You know, I don't have to censor myself. But when you are in an arena where you don't have the support of Black men, where you know, they are, I don't know if it comes from this idea, like, you know, they are this token leader, so they have to assimilate in this group, and so they can't connect with you because they have to stay over here and stay in a positive light over here. I don't know if that's why they don't, but when they don't do it, it's hurtful, because it's like, man, I think about my dad, like, he would do it, why aren't you? Right. You know, and then now it's like, well, I can't trust you. So when you're going up for something, I can't be expected to be your cheerleader because I didn't feel like you were my cheerleader when I needed you. And it just creates this level of distrust within our own community that is hurtful in a certain, you know, in a sense, because when I look at other Black men, that are trying to do great things, I think about my dad and want to push them forward because I know they're going to pull me too when they get there. But I don't feel that with a lot of, you know, African-American men who are in leadership in our community at this present moment. It's like, I'm here, let me, you know, let somebody else give you a turn up, but it won't be me, you know?
That's a great point to segue. Does someone else have something on that?
Well, I just want to say quickly about, I think about Malcolm X's post that the most disrespected person in the planet is a Black woman. I'm paraphrasing. In America is a Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is a Black woman. And I think a lot of Black women, based on their lived experiences, some of which my co-panelists have shared here, to domestic violence issues, to feeling that if a Black man gets to a certain caliber, whether that's an athlete or something like that, they tend to say that, oh, you know, we've heard the things from Black men saying, oh, you're perpetuating the same stuff. Oh, you're angry. Or I don't mess with Black women because they have too much attitude, as if we have the luxury of kind of being these very soft lilies who act like dunces. We have to carry a whole lot for our communities. To hear sometimes Black men, especially at high levels, say some of the vitriol and perpetuate the negativity we see them perpetuating about Black women is harmful. When you think about the fact that the Black Lives Matter movement was started by Black women. So we have historically, you can see the pictures where Black women have thrown their bodies in front of police officers who are aiming guns at Black men, and we don't often feel like we experience or see the same thing from Black men, leading to us having to have hashtags like Say Her Name for Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and others, because Black women suffering is not taken as seriously in the communities, whether it's our own communities or this nation.
Excellent. And one more minute. So 30 seconds. Y'all can split it. You and Portia can split it. Portia, you go second.
Portia. I was gonna say, it's just like, as Black women, we just ride for our Black men like no other. And it just is sometimes, like, I still love my Black men. I will always love my Black men. I want a Black husband, all these things, right? But I think that we just have to just remember, and like, we just, like, we're not on here bashing Black men at all. Like, we love y'all, but we just want the mutual respect and support. We can't keep, you know, killing ourselves, like, to build you up, and then when we need to be poured back into, that there's nothing left. And so Stacey talked about it, like, where you see these athletes, and I won't just say athletes, but just men of power in general, who will leave the Black woman that has been there for them when they had absolutely nothing, and did all that she could to keep both of y'all going, and to be left, exactly, to be left, you know, when you know, have your come up, or when you start to finally make it. So it's unfortunate. So I just want to say, like, sorry, Black men, we love y'all. We really do love y'all. We want to be there for y'all, but like, we just need y'all to be there for us too.
I'll make it quick, and I agree with Portia. We do love our Black men. I will say, to close it out, one time I do remember feeling protected. It was my daddy, and he's listening. So Michael Hamilton. I was having an issue with this guy at work. He was my supervisor, and he was just kind of harassing me and just making rude comments all the time and disrespecting me. And he wasn't doing it to anyone else. And so I did what any daddy's girl would do. And I said, I'm gonna call my daddy. And all he did was show up. And that let that man know, you back off. And I didn't have any more problems with him. And so I think what we're trying to say is this: we just want you to have our back like we've been having yours, and just to show up for us.
Yeah. I gotta say something now, right? My mother, I'll never forget, she was having problems. She's long retired now, but she was having problems, and she was divorced at the time. And so to let them know, yeah, I may be in your eyes this woman raising these two girls, but I'm not alone. And she showed up at a meeting accompanied by, hold on, y'all, the Fruit of Islam. You think my mama ever had any other problems out of people?
And sometimes that's all it takes.
That's all it takes is the presence to know that this sister is not alone. And that's what we want. So for the brothers listening, you don't even have to say nothing. Your very presence speaks volumes.
Can I say, I know you said one more minute, but this is important. Okay. I was leaving an event and I got to my car and I was putting my keys in my car and I saw someone crouching down like near my car. And I thought he was about to attack me. So I screamed so loud. And about 4 black men I did not know ran and took off their coats. I mean, they were dressed really, really nice and came out their coats and ran over there. And the guy was just tying his shoe, y'all. So I say that to say, it's not a general, like we're not generalizing, but in the spaces we have been in, we have experienced a lot of some lack of support. So there's not some people out there that won't, strangers, complete strangers that won't come and to your rescue. And that's just one instance. We mean in all aspects, of course. But yeah, we need support, not just in, coming and defending the damsel in distress, but in the boardroom, in the courtroom, in any room, especially when we're under attack.
Right. Speaking up, being respectful. So now let's talk about the movement. And someone just mentioned the Black Lives Matter movement was started by Black women. We're watching right now what is happening in Louisville, Kentucky. It has been 159 days since Breonna Taylor was brutally murdered in her home, despite the police report saying there were no injuries. Shot 8 times, but the police report said no injuries. March 13th this year, right? But there have been no arrests. There's been 1 firing. And it's not just the 3 officers who shot that night that are complicit in her murder. There are others who did things leading up to that and afterwards that were complicit in the cover-up of what really occurred. But interestingly enough, she died March 13th. Ahmaud Arbery died, I want to say, in February.
Yeah,
and George Floyd in May.
February 26th, okay. I believe. And
George Floyd in May on on Memorial Day, right? So Breonna Taylor's death really took off around maybe the weekend after Ahmaud Arbery's birthday. So his birthday was May 8th. So maybe by that Monday, the 11th, people started hearing the name Breonna Taylor more. And then George Floyd died, and I didn't watch. I can't see that, but a lot of us watched that video, or we know that it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds that he was murdered. He was smothered, so to speak. And this Black woman was in her home, and I'm dressing this up like this on purpose, so y'all just bear with me. But this Black woman was in her home, asleep, in a stand your ground state with castle doctrine, and maybe we do another show about castle doctrine and stand your ground. Her boyfriend was in the home, in the bed with her, asleep. He owned a gun, like many Americans do. I assume all Texans own guns. But they were home, right? And they defended their home, or he defended their home. But losing her made me think about, if this door in front of me were to be knocked down in the middle of the night, my instinct is not going to be, who is that? My instinct is going to pick up, not my phone, but something that's going to leave holes in people's bodies to defend my home. Will that justify the killing of me because I defended my home? And that's not what we're hearing. The news won't talk about it. Like, people aren't talking about it. Houston, we just had this issue last January. It has taken over a year, and in this case, it's still growing. And that was 2 white people in Houston. Now, the officers, The lead officer was black. So the dynamics flipped. 2 people died in Houston. We did get rid of no-knock warrants, but the policy isn't strong enough. And again, I'm dressing this up the way I am on purpose. Then you have Louisville, Kentucky. One of the first things they did was that, you know, we're going to get rid of the no-knock warrant. They did that. They call it Breonna's Law. But today, a woman, a black woman, one who I celebrate, and I've celebrated her for about the last 5 or 6 years, Tamika Mallory, posted a video of how she's just walking around Louisville, serving the community, feeding the community. She's on the ground. She's boots on the ground. She's an activist out of New York City, but she's relocated to Louisville, Kentucky for the movement so that Breonna Taylor's family gets justice, a piece of justice, and helicopters are following them everywhere they go. Unmarked cars are parked outside of their homes. And when we think of the movement today, we really don't hear about the women who are making the difference. And so I just want to, as I say Breonna Taylor's name, I also want to, in memory of her, I want to honor Tamika Mallory and all the Tamika Mallorys around the country. I consider myself a Tamika Mallory some days, you know, but to all the women who are out there fighting in this movement. Now, having said all of that, because we have a Tatiana Jefferson right here in Texas, you know, we had, I can't think of her name right now, but I believe she was in Baytown last year, a few months before Tatiana was killed in Fort Worth. But when Black women are struck down, Black little girls, Ayanna Jones in Detroit. But when Black women are struck down, our communities are not coming to our rescue like we come to the rescue of our communities. Why is it that it seems as though the movement only moves and gets excited when either a brother is harmed or killed, or if a brother is the leading voice or the spotlight is on them? Why do you all feel that? And I said all that storytelling for those who may not be familiar with Breonna Taylor's story and what's still going on around her story. But how do you deal with that? How do you handle that?
Well, the first question you posed, like, why is it? Like, why does this happen? I think that society has been telling Black women for centuries that we can withstand a lot of pain. And, you know, look at slavery. You know, Black women were nursing their white slave masters' children, and they had children themselves. Like, our body is always objectified. It's always, you know, beat up on. You know, people act like we're just punching bags sometimes, like, oh, you know, she can handle it, she can take it. And you talked about even with the movement, Black Lives Matter was started by women, and they have struggled since their founding to get in front of the movement because the men came in and took over. And even, you know, back in the 1960s with Martin Luther King Jr., women were the heart of the movement.
Yes.
But we only know so few names. It was Rosa Parks who decided, I'm not giving up my seat today. And even when Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech, a lot of people don't know this, but it was Mahalia Jackson on stage urging him, tell him about your dream, Martin. And then he goes off script and says, I have a dream. A Black woman did that, but she doesn't get the credit.
Mm-hmm. And you know who also doesn't get the credit about the March on Washington? And I know the show is not about that topic, but I'm going to still say it. Bayard Rustin, he doesn't get the credit. He was the organizer. He was the logistics of the movement, literally, you know, and that's because he was a gay Black man. So it seems like in the movement, there's only a platform or a voice when it's a cisgender Black man. And I don't even ordinarily use that term, the cis and all that, you know. I'm trying to learn to be more politically correct in that regard. And it's not out of disrespect. It's just I didn't know any better, right? But now that I know better, I do better. But it seems like if you're a woman or if you're gay, like, you can lead, but we're not going to take you as serious, you know, unless you just come in there and you knocking down doors and you just saying it like it is to the point where, no, I'm not going to shut up. And I think that's what we get out of a Tamika Mallory. No, I'm not. Oh, quiet. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be that pesky mosquito you can't get rid of. Anyone else?
Just to kind of reiterate some of what I've said earlier, it's just, I think the more intersections that you're a part of, the more difficult that it is. There was, in a way that you had racism in the suffrage movement, there was sexism in the civil rights movement. It's fairly well documented. It's not happenstance, it's intentional that when the Black Lives Matter movement was started by Black women, somehow the broadcasters kept calling, and I'm not trying to say that these people aren't good for the movement, but they kept calling the Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and stuff, rather than the people who actually started the movement, who were calibrating Black voices who are doing the work. I mean, look at our screen today. I think that you all are super dope women, and I'm familiar with the work that you're doing, but you likely have male voices that are often put ahead of yours or showcased within the organization above yours who aren't putting in the work. And it's about, again, dismantling stuff that goes way back generations. Say amen if I'm before us. Well, before us. And it's the same reason we complain about it in the corporate space. It's the same reason we complain. It's because it's historical. And so we have to call it out when we see it. To the extent that you are blessed to be in a room with other, love that quote, other Black women. I know one of the things that has always stuck to me about something that women in general did in the Obama administration who worked in his White House, they came up with a strategy that anytime a woman said an idea, they repeated what she said and her name at least 2 more times. Because we know that when women, and especially Black women, say something in the boardroom, we'll say it, and then a man will say it, and then they're like, great idea, Joe. And it's just like, well, no. Stacey said it. Portia said it. So they would intentionally, which I just thought it's always stuck with me when I read it in this article of how they compounded their voices. They would say, great idea. What I heard Portia say was, we should paint this wall blue. I agree. What I heard Portia and Shamira say was that Stacey said we should paint the, so it would be on record, like you're not going to pretend this is your idea. This is our idea. So I think, and I know we're not necessarily talking about strategy, but one of the strategies we have to employ is trying to think about tactics rather, that we can employ to make sure that we stop this erasure of Black women. And to your point also, as someone said earlier, you know, we're just expected to take it. And we have to take ownership about the ways that throughout the generations, we've been conditioned to be martyrs and have taken that mantle. And that's the reason why we're dying at higher rates of heart attacks. And there's so many other diseases, because we take on these stress and these burdens, and we're suffering, and we do it in silence and in style. And so now we need to start saying, no, we're not going to continue to be silent sufferers. We're not going to continue to be erased. We're not going to have to carry all of the crosses for everybody. We're just going to take the ones that we're really meant to bear. And you're going to have to be okay with it, because I'm not going to continue to crucify myself for an entire group of people. Y'all going to have to start lifting some of your own weight. Or if I am suffering, I'm not going to do it in silence. And I'm going to team up with other sisters to amplify our voices in all the spaces that we're in.
Yeah. You know, I think that America, and even around the world, I think that we're so conditioned to seeing Black women in domesticated roles. Like, you know, we're always the help. You know, we're never necessarily the ones that are in the front. And so when it comes time for us to lead, I feel like there is this scarcity mentality that comes into the minds of those who are used to being in leadership of, no, we can't allow this to be a big issue, because if we do, then we'll spread the message that their lives are meaningful, you know? And so when we talk about a Breonna Taylor, you look at the people who have been saying so many, who have been speaking out on her behalf, you know, Oprah, Michelle Obama, like mega voices have been speaking out, and they're still not able to reach the masses. It's because it's still a Black woman. Like, if we value this Black woman's life so much more than we do other people who are dying, then we're going to authenticate the message that they matter, that they are important, that they have a voice, that they are meaningful to this society. I mean, we see that even when we talk about workers' rights with the Latino community. You know, nobody wants to talk about making them citizens until you start bringing in the fact, well, who's building your house right now? You know, like, who is the labor within your workplace right now? You don't want them to be citizens. You just want them to be cheap labor, which is what I feel as though is happening with African-American women. They don't want us to have a voice. They don't want us to lead. They want us to just be the labor, because they know once we get to the table and we're passionate about something, we're not going to stop until we see it all the way through. And, you know, I think the more that Black women rally behind other Black women and say, no, I don't care if, you know, she's standing up for XYZ. If this is important to our community, we're going to make it important to all of us. And when we do that, we push our agenda forward. You know, we don't give leeway to people to forget about us. We make them remember us.
And I just want to say, if I'm ever shot down in an unjust way, I'm gonna be shaming everyone from heaven if y'all didn't go and rally after me. And that's what I want to tell so many people. Like, it's disheartening to think that if it happened to me, you wouldn't have my back. You know, so if no one else has our backs, Black women, we have to have the backs of other Black women when they're shot down, and no one's enraged. So
what you said, Shamara, last week I was getting ready for bed and I was talking to one of my girlfriends from Houston, and she mentioned Breonna Taylor, and she was like, just think, like, that could have been me. That could have been you. And just hearing her say it, me actually physically laying down at the time, you know, at night, it hit me in a different way. Like, what would I do? Like, how would I feel if someone barged in my house with guns? Like, it's scary and it's traumatizing.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Ladies, this has been amazing. Like, and I know we could go on, and time is ticking. It's a big night tonight. A couple of us, I'm sure, have other engagements. But listen, I want to invite you back for a part 2. Maybe we do this part 2 in October. So Shamara, if you could EP that for us for October, we'll select a date, and we come back and we continue this conversation. I think it's very necessary. I think that it's brilliant. I think it displays the brilliancy of not just the 6 Black women on this screen, but the brilliancy of Black women everywhere. And so I want to thank each of you for taking the time to join us tonight to talk about the power of Black women, because we are powerful, and our voices matter. You know, our voices must be heard. And I often tell my friends, like, what happens if we were to just stop? What if we went on a protest? We're not going to go to work. We're not going to cook. We're not going to have sex. We're not going to turn on the TV. We're not going to shop. We're just going to take up time and space with ourselves. What would this world come to? I think this world would stop at it, like fall to its knees. I think by day 3, like, the negotiations would be so great. They'd be like, what do you want? How many shares of Apple stock would you like? Just come back, you know? But I thank you all for joining us. I invite you to all join the Houston branch of the NAACP if you have not already. We have some marvelous committees. So I'm getting feedback from somewhere, but we have some marvelous committees that you can serve on, including the Young Adult Committee, which is chaired by Shamira and Portia. Shout out to the Young Adult Committee, as well as the Community Coordination Committee. We have an Education Committee. We have Criminal Justice. We have Membership. We have, oh my gosh, we have a plethora. Economic Development. But we have
21 standing committees, y'all.
Yeah, and they're all on the website instead of me trying to remember them. But they're all on the website, and you can find us at naacphouston.org. And you can join at naacphouston.org/join, as you see on the ticker below. But we invite you all to get active. If you're not in the Houston community, there is an NAACP near you, I guarantee you. Please join the national organization if you can't find a local organization. There's a lot of work to be done, and the work does not get done by talking trash on the sidelines.
And it's a good opportunity
done when you come to the table.
While everything is electronic right now. So even if you are just kind of afraid to see what's going on, this is a good opportunity for you to kind of just watch in and see what's going on and see the kind of things we're getting done.
Yes, excellent. So I want to encourage the membership for NAACP. Also want to encourage you to get registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, please contact us. You can contact us on here, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can contact us at community@naacphouston.org or at young adults at naacphouston.org. Just reach out to us. We have voter registration events every Saturday up until October 3rd. But you don't have to wait until Saturday. If you hit us up and you're going to be on a certain side of town, we'll figure it out. We'll get you registered. If you have a group of people, last thing I want to say, if you have been released from papers, if you were convicted of a felony and you're no longer on papers, let us register you to vote. A good friend of mine who I registered to vote last year, he told me, he said how much that meant to him. Another gentleman I spoke to who registered to vote after being incarcerated and coming off paper said that at that point, that's when he finally felt like a citizen of these United States. So I want to encourage you to not only get registered to vote, but vote as often as you can. That means every time there's an election. That's how we affect change. And with that said, thank you, ladies, for joining us. I look forward to having you all back with us. And peace out. Good night. Black Lives Matter and Black Girl Magic.
Bye.